Have you ever felt like you're meant for something bigger, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is? Like there's this incredible potential, maybe a simmering energy inside, but the day-to-day grind, all the expectations, the noise, it feels like the world's trying to damp it down. If that resonates with you at all, then this deep dive, it's going to feel like fuel to that inner fire. Because today, we're really digging into a truly transformative collection. Inspired Talks by Swami Vivekananda.
Yeah.
Now, let's be clear right up front. This isn't your typical self-help book. You won't find productivity hacks here, or those step-by-step routines for success, or like quick fixes for anxiety. What Inspired Talks offers is, well, it's much more fundamental. It gives you truth, really. A perspective that doesn't just entertain. You can actually shake your understanding, uplift you, and kind of reframe how you see everything. Your mind, your body, your soul, even the universe. It's like meeting a monk who talks like a warrior, and teaches like a flame.
And what's fascinating here is how timeless these messages are. They offer this really unique lens to view your own potential. That feeling you described, host speaker, that inner fire pushing against the world trying to put it out. That's exactly what Vivekananda was getting at.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, he isn't just offering philosophy like abstract ideas. He's offering a direct challenge, a challenge to awaken, to really tap into that potential you feel is there. He connects this ancient wisdom, makes it practical, actionable, even today.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's really set the scene for these talks, because understand how they came about, well, it adds so much. First thing, Inspired Talks isn't a book that Vivekananda sat down and, wrote out chapter by chapter.
Right. Not in the traditional sense.
Exactly. It's more like a living document, a really intimate collection of his spontaneous talks, his private conversations. And these were meticulously noted down by one of his closest Western disciples, Miss S.E. Waldo. She basically captured this wisdom as it flowed.
And this raises an important question, doesn't it? How does capturing spoken words instead of like formal writing shape the nature of this wisdom? I mean, with a regular book, you expect polished arguments, revisions.
Yeah, everything carefully planned.
Exactly. But these talks, they just emerged in the moment, maybe responding to a question or just flowing from his own thoughts. And that informal conversational origin gives the text its amazing directness, an immediacy. You feel like you're listening in.
With you right there in the room.
Precisely. It allowed for these raw, unfiltered, really powerful insights to come through without the constraints of, writing a formal paper. It gives it a unique power and authenticity.
That makes total sense. And it really paints a picture. We're talking about a specific place and time. A quiet cottage in Thousand Island Park, New York, summer of 1895. And picture this.
Yeah.
It wasn't some big auditorium tour.
No, not at all.
It was this tiny group, just his closest Western followers gathered around him, intimate. And every morning, every evening, he wouldn't preach or deliver some heavy lecture. He'd just talk.
Spontaneously.
Yeah, from the heart, responding to their questions, their doubts, whatever they were grappling with. Just these candid, unscripted outpourings. And Miss Waldo captured it all.
And it's so important to grasp the significance of that setting. Because it wasn't a public lecture tour, it was deeply personal, almost like a spiritual workshop or retreat. That intimacy fostered this atmosphere of trust, right? Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Openness, which let Vivekananda go really deep into complex spiritual stuff with incredible directness.
You didn't need to water it down for a big crowd.
Exactly. No need for big sweeping statements or trying to please everyone. He could tailor it right to the people there. That informal setting, free from any pressure to perform, it definitely allowed those raw, powerful insights to surface. That's the core of Inspired Talks. It was a direct transmission.
And what makes them resonate so powerfully, even today, over a century later, is Vivekananda's just incredible genius for teaching. He could take this ancient Indian wisdom stuff that could easily feel abstract or, totally irrelevant to modern life and make it intensely practical. Modern, relevant, accessible. You really don't need to be a monk or a philosophy expert to get it. He cut right through to the core human experience.
Which raises that key question. How did he do that? How did he translate these complex, deep spiritual ideas, often rooted in Sanskrit and ancient traditions, for a Western audience back in the 1890s and make them feel so immediate, so actionable?
Yeah, what was his secret?
Well, his brilliance was in synthesis and universalization. He could distill these vast teachings down to their essence. He stripped away the cultural specifics, the jargon maybe that might have put people off. He presented the core psychological, ethical, spiritual truths in language anyone could grasp.
Using analogies they'd understand.
Exactly. Analogies that resonated with Western minds, sometimes even connecting to science. And he always brought it back to your direct experience, how to apply it in your life. He wasn't just teaching about wisdom, he was teaching how to live it, making the ancient regent and relevant for anyone seeking a deeper life.
Okay, so now that we've got the context, let's dive into one of the absolute biggest questions he tackles right away. A question most of us, honestly, never really stop to answer. Who are you, really? Vivekananda suggests most of us are walking around kind of spiritually asleep.
Not literally, of course.
No, we're awake, doing our jobs, paying bills, but asleep to our true nature. Operating under this huge misconception about who we are. We tend to identify with, the surface stuff. I'm this body with its aches and pains. I'm this mind with its worries and endless thoughts.
I'm my name, my job, my problem.
Exactly. I'm this struggle. We define ourselves by these temporary things, a very limited view.
And vulnerable.
Totally. But then Swamiji just flips it.
Yeah.
Completely turns it on its head. He says, with total conviction, you are not the body. You are not the mind. You are the Atman.
The Atman. That's the key term.
Right. It means the infinite, the divine spark within, the pure, unchanging consciousness that just watches everything else, the witness. Untouched by the body's changes or the mind's chaos. I mean, just take a second to absorb that. It's like saying, you're not just a wave on the ocean rising and falling, here, one moment, gone the next.
You're the whole ocean.
Exactly. You are the entire ocean. The waves come and go, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but the vast, deep, eternal ocean, it remains, always there. Underlying everything. It's a massive shift in perspective.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the profound shift, the liberation this offers. Because if we truly are the Atman, that infinite consciousness, then all those things we usually identify with, body, mind, job, relationships, they become, like Vivekananda said, just the costume you're wearing in this play of life.
Right, just a role we're playing.
And this idea speaks directly to so many common struggles, doesn't it? Money worries, relationship pain, self-doubt. If you think you are the wave, then every little ripple feels like a huge deal defining you. But if you start to see yourself as the ocean...
The waves are just happenings, phenomena passing through.
Precisely. The problems don't vanish, but your relationship to them fundamentally changes. You aren't defined by them anymore. It's not about ignoring problems, but facing them from a place of deep inner stability. Which raises that question for you, listening. If you really took this idea on board, truly internalized it, how might your view of your daily challenges, your setbacks, even your own worth actually change?
It moves you from feeling like a tiny boat tossed around to realizing you're the ocean itself. That's powerful.
Immensely. It offers a foundation of inner calm.
Okay, so building on that foundational idea of who you are, the Atma Vivekananda introduces something that feels less like philosophy and more like a battle cry, something he repeats constantly in these talks: strength. Strength is what we want. Strength is what the gods want from us.
That's a core theme, definitely.
And this is where he really shakes up common ideas about spirituality. For him, real spirituality is not about weakness. It's not about being passive or meek.
Or escaping life's difficulties.
Right. It's the opposite. It's about facing life head on.
Yeah.
Boldly, with courage, no matter what life throws at you.
He saw it as an act of engagement.
Totally. And to illustrate this, he often talked about his admiration for warriors. But, and this is crucial, he wasn't talking about the violent kind, not conquerors using force.
No, a different kind of warrior.
Exactly. The warrior who could control their own mind like a perfectly balanced sword. The kind of person who could face intense pain, adversity, loss, and just stand firm and say, bring it on, I'm not afraid.
It's such a powerful reframing, isn't it? Because often spirituality gets painted as this quiet, gentle, almost otherworldly thing.
Yeah, something separate from the messy reality of life.
But Vivekananda, he frames it as this intense inner battlefield. And the real enemy, it isn't out there.
It's inside?
It's your own fear, your own ignorance, your own ego. That's where the real fight is.
This is where he really stands apart, I think. He takes spirituality from being passive or purely meditative and transforms it into this active, courageous quest for inner mastery.
It's almost militant in its focus on self-discipline.
Yeah. And connecting this to the bigger picture, he's saying the real obstacles aren't external circumstances or other people. The true adversaries are internal.
Your fear, which holds you back. your ignorance, which clouds your judgment, your ego, which creates separation and limits you.
So it makes you think, right? In a world that's always telling us to look outside for solutions, find the right guru, the right technique, the right external fix.
What does it mean to be told the real battle, the most important one, is actually within you? It shifts the whole focus.
Puts the power and the responsibility back in your hands.
Exactly. It's a call to profound self-reliance and inner strength.
Okay, so from that call to inner strength, let's move to another huge theme woven through Inspired Talks service. But not just any service. He constantly emphasizes selfless service.
Karma yoga, essentially.
Right. He puts it so simply, yet it's so profound. Do good because it's good to do good, not for any reward. Just let that sink in. Action purely for the sake of the action itself. No strings attached.
No ulterior motive.
None. And here's the part that really struck me, the crucial nuance. He's definitely not saying don't help people. Quite the opposite.
No, it's a call to action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Engage, serve, uplift others, be a positive force. But, and this is the key, don't get attached to the results. Don't look for praise. Don't expect thanks. Don't expect anything back.
Why is that so important, do you think?
Because the moment you expect something, you're not free anymore, right? You're back in the loop of ego and desire. Your actions are driven by what you might get.
Instead of flowing from just pure intention.
Exactly. It immediately reminded me of that line from the Bhagavad Gita, do your work, but don't worry about the fruit.
A classic statement of detachment.
And Vivekananda really drills down on that in these talks.
Yeah.
Act from love, not greed. From courage, not neediness about the outcome.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is how this simple instruction, detached from the results, actually liberates you. It seems counterintuitive, maybe. Well, when you're not desperately needing a specific outcome or craving validation, your actions become purer, more focused, often more powerful.
Because you're not constantly second-guessing or getting discouraged.
Exactly. You're less likely to be thrown off by setbacks or what other people think. You're acting from pure intention, which ironically can lead to greater impact and definitely deeper fulfillment. It raises that question. Why is this idea of detachment so central in so many wisdom traditions? Jita, Buddhism, Stoicism.
Good point. It seems universal.
And what does it mean for us today? In a world obsessed with results, metrics, likes, recognition.
Where everything is about the outcome.
Right. Vivekananda's message is a profound challenge to rethink our motivations. He's suggesting true freedom, and maybe even true effectiveness, comes not from controlling the outcome, which we often can't, but from perfecting the action itself, rooting it in selflessness.
It's a radical way to engage with the world.
Truly transformative, offering peace regardless of what happens externally.
Now, here's something that often catches people by surprise when they first encounter Vivekananda. He was an incredibly strong, outspoken advocate for women's empowerment.
Yeah, that's a really important aspect of his work.
It wasn't just a side note. It was a core theme. He said, and this was amazing for his time, quote, "There is no chance for the welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved."
Just pause on that. Late 1890s. A monk from India.
Exactly. That was not the common view then, not in the East or the West, really. It was revolutionary.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is how progressive it was. It completely shatters any stereotype of Eastern thought being inherently anti-women or stuck in the past. Vivekananda saw clearly that uplifting humanity meant uplifting everyone, that women's potential was vital for global progress, spiritual awakening.
It wasn't just social reform for him, was it?
No, it felt like a spiritual imperative. He understood that real progress couldn't happen if half of humanity was held back. It shows his incredibly holistic and compassionate vision.
And that forward thinking didn't stop there. He also deeply believed in combining like the best of East and West. He wasn't caught up in that my culture is better than yours mentality at all.
Not in the slightest. He saw unique strengths in both.
He saw the West's dynamism, its practical energy, its organizational skills.
And felt it needed the East's deep spiritual insight, its focus on inner life, its contemplative tradition.
Right, and vice versa. He didn't see one as superior. He saw them as complementary. Two halves needing each other for balance.
A true synthesis.
Yeah. He dreamed of this world where knowledge and strength from all cultures could merge, creating something richer, more evolved.
Which raises that crucial question for us now. What can we learn from that vision today? In a world still struggling with divisions, misunderstandings between cultures.
Where differences are often seen as threats.
Exactly. Vivekananda was like a proto-globalist, wasn't he? He saw that human evolution depends on mutual learning, respect, collaboration, not isolation or dominance. He envisioned progress driven not just by technology or money, but by integrating intellectual power with spiritual depth, drawing from all traditions. Remarkable foresight, a blueprint for a truly unified world.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and get really practical, because a huge part of Vivekananda's teaching is about mastering the mind. That thing between our ears that often feels totally out of control.
The inner chaos.
He uses this absolutely unforgettable analogy. He calls the untrained mind a drunken monkey bitten by a scorpion.
Wow, that paints a picture.
Doesn't it? Just imagine it. A monkey, already restless and jumpy by nature. Then make it drunk so it's even more erratic. Then it gets stung by a scorpion, making it frantic with pain and agitation.
That's intense.
He says that's basically our untrained mind. Wild, restless, bombarded with cravings, fears, random thoughts. Just constant noise. It feels like a battle just to get a moment's peace.
So true for so many people.
So if that's the state of the mind, the drunken monkey, what's the fix? How do we tame it? He points straight to those ancient proven practices. Meditation, concentration, self-discipline.
The classic tools.
But here's the thing. He doesn't present it like some boring chore or something only for monks. He frames it as the ultimate challenge, a test of your will, an assertion of your inner power.
Like climbing Mount Everest, but internally?
Kind of. He says if you can truly control your mind, gain mastery over the chatter, the impulses, even for just a few minutes, you can basically conquer your world.
Because everything starts there.
Exactly. He insists everything begins and ends in the mind. It's the control panel for your entire reality.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, it's really about reclaiming your agency, isn't it? Your mind can either be your master, dragging you all over the place with worries and distractions.
The drunken monkey driving the bus.
Right. Or it can become your most powerful tool, sharpened, focused, capable of incredible things. Which leads to the question, how do we actually do that in our busy lives with these monkey minds?
He's not promising instant results, right?
No, definitely not. It's about consistent, patient effort, observing the mind, gently redirecting it, incrementally. Every moment you choose focus over distraction, every mindful breath, every time you pull your attention back, that's a step towards freedom, towards mastering that inner world. It's a daily practice.
And tied directly to that mind mastery is another fundamental principle he emphasizes. We literally become what we think.
That's a big one.
And it's not just, a nice affirmation. For Vivekananda, it's a deep truth about how consciousness works, how reality manifests. So if you consistently choose and cultivate strong, noble, fearless thoughts, it's not just that you feel better.
You actually become that.
That's what he argues. Your character, your habits, how you respond to life, your destiny itself, it's all shaped by the patterns of your thinking.
And what's so compelling is how directly he links thought to destiny. Your thoughts aren't just random noise. They are the actual blueprint for the life you create.
Wow, the blueprint.
Yeah. It's way beyond just positive thinking. It's a profound statement about consciousness shaping reality. If the mind is the drunken monkey, then learning to guide its focus, even though it takes huge effort, is maybe the most important work we can do. It's about consciously choosing the building blocks of the life you want, the person you want to be. You're not just reacting, you're actively creating through the power of your mind.
Okay. Now for maybe the most radical, most liberating, and maybe for some, the most challenging idea from Inspired Talks. It completely flips our usual ideas about spirituality, even about God. Vivekananda states incredibly boldly, God is not in temples, God is not in rituals, God is not even in the sky.
That must have been shocking to hear back then. Still can be.
Right. It sounds like he's tearing everything down.
But he doesn't leave you there.
No, he immediately offers this incredibly empowering alternative. God is within you, right now, right here. The instruction is crystal clear. Stop looking outside. Stop searching in external places, churches, books, gurus, heavens.
Look inward.
Exactly. Dive deep into your own consciousness. That's where the answers are. That's where the divine lives. Always present, always accessible.
The ultimate truth, the ultimate power isn't out there. It's inherent in your own being.
This connects right back to the Atman, doesn't it? The divine self within.
Absolutely. And it's so transformative because it puts the ultimate power and responsibility squarely on the individual. If God or truth is within you, you're not some helpless creature waiting for external grace. You are a spark of the divine, capable of so much.
So it raises the question, what does it actually mean day to day to live with that belief, that the answers are inside? How does that empower you?
Well, it removes the need for external validation, right? Or intermediaries. It encourages a direct experience of truth, of strength. It's a call to radical self-reliance, not ego, but recognizing your own inherent boundless potential.
And to really drive home this point about inner strength and authenticity being more important than just labels or rituals, he made that incredibly striking statement.
The one about atheists.
Yeah. It is better to be an atheist and live bravely than to be a coward in the name of religion.
Wow, that cuts deep.
It really does. It strips away all pretense. He's saying, if your belief or even your non-belief doesn't lead to courage, to living with integrity, to facing reality, then it's worthless.
And what's so insightful there is the emphasis on courage and authenticity over just wearing a label. Religious, spiritual, atheist, that's secondary.
What matters is the quality of your being.
Exactly. The strength of your character, how fearlessly you live. True spirituality, for him, shows up in a brave, principled, compassionate life, not just performing piety while being cowardly or hypocritical underneath. If we connect this to the bigger picture, he wasn't just teaching a religion, a set of doctrines. He was teaching a mindset.
A way of being.
A way of being fully alive. Awake to your divine nature, aware of your inner power, fearless in facing challenges, compassionate towards everyone. It's a call to live with integrity and strength, no matter what you call your belief system.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Swami Vivekananda's inspired talks, what's the core takeaway? For me, this isn't a book you just read once and put away. It's more like that wise, tough friend you go back to when you need a reality check.
Someone who doesn't just offer easy comfort.
Exactly. Vivekananda doesn't really offer comfort in that soft way. He gives you fire. He ignites that spark inside. He keeps reminding you relentlessly, you are not small. You are not weak. You're not defined by your problems or limits. You are essentially divine. You can do anything if you just remember and live from who you really are.
And what's fascinating connecting this to today is how incredibly relevant that message still is, maybe more than ever. In a world that's constantly trying to distract you, label you, box you in, this counter message of your inherent divinity and strength is so vital.
It's an antidote, almost.
It really is. This dive into inspired talks isn't just academic. It's a personal invitation to look inward, challenge your own assumptions about yourself, wake up to your own vastness, which raises that final question for you, listening. How might internalizing even one of these ideas, the Atman, inner strength, selfless service, how might that start to shift your daily approach to challenges, to people, to yourself?
Something to really sit with.
Definitely. Until next time, stay strong, stay awake, and remember, you are the soul, not the body, not the mind, but the ever-free, ever-pure soul.